we have Mr. SP with $10. My guilty pleasure is Sonic 3D Blast on Sega.
Are you okay, Wayne?
What?
You said that was oh wow, no, you really.
Someone wasn't paying attention.
Any 3D Sonic was exciting in 1996.
Wayne,
Just
Wallace.
did that.
What?
Wallace, we read that one.
Did I have a stroke? I think I just like blanked out.
What's up, you stinky puppers? Channel Pup here, and today we're going to be ranking every single version of the sexiest car ever conceived. I remember when I was working my crappy gas station job, a customer who came in buying lottery tickets asked my co-worker what he would get if he won the lottery. And they talked about the different cars they'd want to buy, and then my co-worker Brad asked me, well, Pup, what would you get? And I just said, a Batmobile. They both laughed at that. But goddamn, the Batmobile is the coolest vehicle ever made. This is every man's dream vehicle, whether they are willing to admit it or not. So today, I'm going to be ranking the 10 live-action Batmobiles, from my least favorite to favorite. And just a reminder, these videos are made possible by my supporters on this platform, so if you do want to support me, be sure to hit that big, beautiful subscribe button, and be sure to check out the Patreon link in the description below. But ahead of this, I want you all to know this is a very trivial list based entirely on subjective favoritism. As these cars are all from different time periods made to suit different styles, there is no car on this list that would suit every single incarnation of Batman, so let that be known. But without further ado, let's get into it with my number 10 pick, the worst live-action Batmobile, which is, in my opinion, the Tumbler from the Dark Knight Trilogy. This is the one and only Batmobile that I don't at the very least like. I recognize the greatness of the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, but I definitely wasn't fond of the Bat aesthetic in these movies, and the Batmobile is definitely no exception. Regardless of the needs and priorities of Batman, usually you can rely on the Batmobile to be an aesthetically pleasing vehicle with a sleek and sexy form factor. This right here is a wedge. I can understand wanting to reinterpret Batman's car as more of a military vehicle, but I feel like they gave up the most important thing about the Batmobile with the Tumbler, and that is just that the Batmobile is supposed to look really nice. And this looks more like a jet black Millennium Falcon inspired fucking monster truck thing than a Batmobile. The concept was there, execution just wasn't, in my opinion. In 9th place is the Batmobile from Batman and Robin. Put it this way, pretty much everything in Batman and Robin was all about aesthetic over function. The film was a garish late 90s fever dream, and the Batmobile fits in well with that, with a sleek form factor packed to the brim with flashing lights. One of the big priorities of Batman and Robin was to be appealing to kids and to sell toys, and this Batmobile definitely looks like a toy, alright. When I see this, I think it looks like an amusement park ride, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't look kinda cool and that I wouldn't want to actually get in it and drive it for a bit. It also, though, strikes me as a little weird that this thing came out in 1998 and didn't have a roof, when having a roof on the Batmobile was kind of a staple of the films at the time. But again, it's all about aesthetic, not so much about practicality when it comes to that Clooney film. But hey, as it happens, I actually like Batman and Robin for how style over substance it is, and the Batmobile is just a part of that. In 8th place, we have the Batmobile from Batwoman. Now, what is the CW known for? Cheap! Cheap, 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 cheap. If you take the red bat paraphernalia for this thing, it just looks like a car. And that is, to be honest, not terrible. It's just that the red bat paraphernalia also happens to look a little cheap here. Now, it is kind of ironic that I call this cheap considering I couldn't afford a car like this, but I guess when it comes to like a TV production or a movie production, you expect something a little better than a modded out sports car. At least in the present day anyway, but this is the CW we're talking about. And everyone knows that the C in CW stands for cheap. It's not awful though, and it's honestly nice to see a little splash of red on there. It seems to be taking a little bit of influence from the 1960s Batmobiles, and I feel like that's also kind of fitting for Batwoman, given that she does have a red and black aesthetic on her costume anyway. Yeah, it's fine. It's just, you know, it's just fine. In 7th place is the Batmobile from Batman Forever. Once again, and in typical Joel Schumacher fashion, this car is form over function, and definitely looks like something out of a 1990s fever dream. I kinda like the ribcage looking chassis on this thing, and honestly, I don't mind the central back fin as well. I know it kinda looks like a mohawk, but at the same time, it looks pretty cool. And I guess this thing does have a smidge of practicality to it with that nice bubble looking roof. Although this thing would not be able to navigate anything other than a flat surface with those big rims around the wheels. Again, it's form over function, but definitely the better version of it. In 6th place is the Batmobile from the original Batman serials of 1943, which was basically a 39 Cadillac Series 75 convertible sedan. So no, nothing too specialist here, but I gotta say, it's a really sexy car. What can I say? I just like old cars, okay? And to be fair, it would make a lot of sense for Batman's car to be just a bit more covert if he wants to be more of a stealthy hero. So yeah, it's just a nice looking car. In 5th place is the 1963 Robinson Oldsmobile Batmobile prototype. A very early version of Adam West's Batmobile that never made it to the screen, but it still has everything that I would like to see from a classic old school retro Batmobile. A slick form factor, it looks like it's got a bit of grunt to it, red pinstripes and a lovely glossy paint job, as well as a big fin on the back. This was a really pretty car. In 4th place is the Snyderverse Batmobile. This very much took the overall idea of the Tumbler being a big, armored military vehicle and gave it much more the form factor of a traditional Batmobile, so it's a lot more shapely this time around, while still looking like an armored militant vehicle. I feel like you could pluck the Tumbler out of the Dark Knight trilogy and just place the Snyderverse Batmobile in its place, and nothing would be lost. As this for me does everything the Tumbler set out to do, but does it right without betraying the overall silhouette that the Batmobile should have. A big, gorgeous, show-stopping vehicle that also looks practical and formidable. In 3rd place, we have the Burtonverse Batmobile. I still stand by my opinion that a lot of the Tim Burton aesthetic in his 2 Batman films has aged really, really nicely, and that these designs would need minimal tweaking to look good today. The Batmobile is no exception. Burton's Batman was all about theatrics, and this Batmobile is definitely in that vein. Just look at this thing, it's dramatic to look at. The only issue with it now is that when you look back on those 2 Batman films, the Batmobile can look a little bit wibbly and light. But with today's technology, I think you could make this look like a really nice heavyweight vehicle. As this thing looks slick, it looks just practical enough to get by, and really just what more need be said, this thing just looks beautiful. In 2nd place is the Batmobile of the Reevesverse. We live in a day and age where the Batmobile is usually portrayed as some kind of militant vehicle, and it was so refreshing to have it turned back into a muscle car once again. We're back to that pure Batmobile. And this Batmobile has absolutely everything a modern Batmobile needs. It looks practical, it looks fast, it's not overly low to the ground, it looks like it can handle different terrains, but also it's got that sleek and sexy form factor you'd expect from a Batmobile. It looks armored and aggressive, but also dramatic. I love how you can see the engine exposed at the back, and it just looks like it packs a load of grunt into it. And the red lights throughout this thing as well. But at the same time, it's just subtle enough to look a little covert as well. There's also a little backstory behind this if you read the Batman prequel novel. I won't spoil anything, but yeah, in universe there's a great explanation for this vehicle. And it looks like the upcoming Batman film is going to be incredibly well thought out. And in 1st place, and this is pretty unbeatable for me, I'm going to be honest, is the Batman 66 Batmobile. I think this was the first Batmobile I ever saw, and it just etched into my head everything a car should be. This was a modded Lincoln Futura, which was already a gorgeous, sleek car, which naturally had those sort of bat fins as part of the design. Okay, look, I'm a sucker for form over function old cars, okay? Leave me be. Now take that and put it in red pinstripe with little bat logos on it, and oh man, okay, that's gorgeous. Okay, I need to go clean my boxer shorts real quick. Also, in a very James Bond-esque way, this thing is packed with gadgets such as these little missile fire things that we've got to the rear of the chassis. There's a little razor blade inside the front of it, this pulsating red light on the top, the little bat beam radar thingy. And okay, it helps that a lot of the footage of it was sped up, but yeah, this thing looks nippy and fast as well. There are definitely elements of this Batmobile that I would definitely like to see on more of the modern ones, such as the red pinstripe. But yes, I do acknowledge that this is very much of its time, and it just so happens that the 1960s was a golden age for cars. But yeah, for me, this is my absolute all-time favorite vehicle, full stop. Now, I'm pretty certain that there's going to be a lot of you that disagree with me, and I'm intrigued to hear it. So, post your rankings in the comments below, and until the next time, guys, I'll be back with new Batman content. Same pup time, same pup channel. Well, not same pup time, it's never at the same time, but yeah, you get the sentiment. So what do you guys think? If you enjoyed this video and you want to support more like it, be sure to hit that big, beautiful subscribe button. And of course, in the description below are links to different social media feeds, including the Patreon. If you're feeling extra generous, like the following people, who are JK Strife, Marcus Ward, Sirius the Skeptic, Biotinarts, Mr. SP, David 20 Covers, Sergio, John Comey, Shodin, George is Lost, Legendary Ray Ray, Cheesemaster769, Adam Myers, and Fayalan Schwarzenkraut. Thank you guys, you are the best of the best, but as for the rest of you, thank you so much for watching, guys, and have a great day.